So let's start with the overview. Essentially, we report the data in CalPads to meet accountability and the requirements of legislation, both federal, local, and statewide. So as far as statewide is concerned, you have the counts, disadvantaged students and the English learners, and those counts are used to satisfy the local control funding formula or contribute to that, help identify students who qualify for that funding. And then, of course, we meet the requirements of the Every Student Succeeds Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Act. There are, of course, other legislation, but these are the most significant or high profile. So we have several important dates that we want to cover, starting on the bottom left with the purple sticky note. Census Day was October 5th. Talk about that just shortly here. Then the CalPads Quarterly, which you can register for and attend, which the quarterlies have replaced the SIM. I don't think we're doing SIM anymore. And so the CalPads Quarterly, if you bookmark system documentation, there was a training link. Let me go back. You go to training, and then outside of Census, this is a CDE training. You have CalPads Quarterly updates, and then you could actually register for any one of these. So if you're not available, you can see here's the first set of dates. Tuesday, November 1st will be the Northern region, and then Northern Region B. And then the third one will be Central Valley. And then the following day, you have on November 2nd, the Southern region. And while you can attend any one of these, November 1st or 2nd, they've been kind of sectioned by region, just in case you guys want to talk to those within your region, right? In your county, in a neighboring county, so on and so forth. But if you're not available on the 1st, you're welcome to attend on the 2nd. And then the certification deadline, the initial certification deadline is December 16th. You know, with Fall 1, the initial certification deadline as well as the final deadline, January 20th, have significance, very important. You want to make sure that you can certify for the initial deadline so that the CDE can provide a P1 estimate for your LEA in your district. That way they can have some advanced planning time and forecast the funding so that they can do that planning, right? So you don't, if you're brand new, you can't take for granted that you have 2 deadlines. You definitely want to certify the first initial deadline. Then if there's a something's wrong, or if you identify more kids eligible for LCFF, whatever the case may be, you have a little bit more than a month to amend that data and certify by the January 20th. Just keep in mind, a lot of people, if you're working through the winter holidays, a lot of people are out. So typically that amendment window gets shrunk down to 2 weeks after the end of winter break. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we have this slide with very little information, but it's the central point of Fall 1, right? The Fall 1 reports reflect counts as of Census Day. So if you're brand new, nothing was required of you on Census Day, October 5th. However, when you are certifying your data on the final or the initial deadline, whether it's December 16th or January 20th, all your reports are showing the counts of students that were either enrolled on Census Day or were identified as EL on Census Day or had a program membership start date for GATE or migrant before Census Day. Therefore, they were active in that program or eligible on Census Day. So everything is as looking back through a window or looking back through time to October 5th. And so even your special ed identification, right? Those students who are found eligible, had active plans, who were pending, everything is reflective as of October 5th. All right, so the data that's reported, the data that we'll list here are like the main data or a summary of the main data, but there's so many different elements, so many different subgroups on reports, it's not the totality. So you have your LEA enrollment counts who are active as of Census Day. You have your LEA enrollment counts for specific subgroups represented statewide enrollment count as of Census Day. The count of English language acquisition status, not just those EL learners, but every student's English language acquisition status as of Census Day. Those students who are in language instruction programs as of Census Day. The LEA count of special education plan types, those are your special education students, or students with disabilities who have been identified and tested and are receiving services, any any one of those, right? So if they've been identified and declined services, they're going to show up. If they've been identified and are receiving services, they have an active plan, they're going to show up. If they're been identified but they're pending, if you submit the data showing that they're pending, they're going to show up. The count of students who have been exited, so those are your dropouts from the prior academic year. Several years ago, the graduates report that was implemented into end of year 3 to align with the cohort reporting, but the identification of those dropouts still remains in fall 1 of the subsequent year. And then the count of students identified as disadvantaged for LCF purposes, along with the EL students who generate funding.